Hey there, Internet. This has been an interesting week for gaming news, and we're going to get into all of it, but don't worry, I read through EA's insane Battle Pass strategy, so you don't have to. And if EA can do one thing very well, that thing would be pissing off their entire player base. They're not good at many things, but they're absolute champions of the industry when it comes to making decisions no one wants, except their shareholders, and everyone hates, except their shareholders. This week, it's Apex Legends' turn to make boneheaded business moves. Not that Apex Legends hasn't already alienated half its player base in the past couple of years or so. Let me just read this tweet to you. Starting with Season 22, we're evolving the Apex Legends Battle Pass to improve your experience and progression goals. Read on to learn everything to know about the upcoming changes or check out the infographic below to learn more. When I first saw this tweet, specifically the line, "We're evolving the Apex Legends Battle Pass," I immediately heard Vader say, "I'm altering the deal, pray I do not alter it further." So just what is this evolution exactly? How about 2 battle passes instead of 1, and they're both $10? If you heard "yo dog" at any point in that sentence, you're not crazy, I heard it too. EA literally has an entire page on their website detailing how the new battle pass works, and it looks like this. Imagine a world where a game company has to create an infographic and a detailed web page simply to explain how a battle pass, a concept that's been in use for years, will now work in their new evolved version. Here, let me break it down and explain it. In Apex Legends past seasons, you spent $10 for the battle pass. You gained currency that could then be used to unlock the next battle pass. Yes, you had to grind your ass off to earn it, but you could earn it. Easy enough. But now EA has evolved the battle pass, which means they cut the original in half, got rid of the ability to use your in-game currency to buy the next one, and will now charge $10 for both. Which, by the way, if you want everything in the battle pass, you have to buy both with real money because of course you do. Don't worry, gamers, EA is doing this for you. They want to help you, you see. We've seen the numbers, and things need to be more approachable and realistic for our global player community. Each of these updated aspects allows us to make the Battle Pass more attainable and valuable for your time and money. The reward should always be worth the time you choose to spend in the Outlands, and now it is. So there you go, Apex Legends players. Enjoy that, I guess. EA clearly seems to think you will. In some other EA news, they've announced this week that Battlefield 3, 4, and Hardline will be removed from sale this July 31st. If you own the game, you still have access to single-player content, but all online support will be ended as of November 7th of this year. If only there was some way to design these games so they could be played offline in a non-gimped state. Perhaps in that world, they wouldn't need to delist the games at all and could continue to make a little money from sales after the online support was ended. Man, what a world would that be if that kind of technology existed? Oh, and they've also announced a Battlefield 2042 and Dead Space crossover, which is currently going on until July 16th. The crossover implements an Outbreak mode, which is a 4-player PvE horde survival mode. And that's fine, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to get excited for anything EA does at this point in time. But hey, if you are looking forward to it, more power to you. I hope you enjoy it. I love me some Dead Space. I just wish we could get an actual Dead Space game and not this weird crossover, but whatever. And it's not just poor EA that wants some more money either. No, this week Microsoft finally announced they're raising prices on the Xbox Game Pass. And yeah, we all knew this was coming, especially after that Black Ops 6 coming to Game Pass reveal last month. There's just way too much money tied up into the Call of Duty franchise to simply put it on Game Pass. So of course, Microsoft is going to raise its prices to compensate. So what's the damage? So for starters, there's a new tier just called Standard that all new subscribers will be recommended. This new tier will be about $14.99 a month in US dollar dues, but there's a catch because of course there is. The Standard tier does not give you access to day one releases. Yep, meaning all of you who are hoping to sign up and play Black Ops 6 will be needing a different subscription tier. And wouldn't you know it, Microsoft has you covered with Game Pass Ultimate, which is being increased from $16.99 to $19.99 a month. PC Game Pass is also increasing from $9.99 to $12.99, but will thankfully retain its access to day one games. For now. Also, as of September 18th, you'll no longer be able to stack infinite Game Pass months using subcards and other tactics. Instead, you'll be capped at 13 months. If you're one of those who have been using this trick, you'll keep your stacked months, but don't expect to add any more. Just like EA altering that deal, pray Microsoft doesn't alter theirs any further either. And if Microsoft's aggressive Game Pass push wasn't clear to you already, this week Xbox Cloud Gaming officially arrived on the Amazon Fire Stick TV. Meaning you don't need an Xbox to play Xbox games anymore. In fact, it literally says that on Xbox.com. The catch, there's always a catch, is that you do need Game Pass Ultimate, the most expensive tier, because of course. And it also will only work on the fanciest Fire Sticks, the 4K and the 4K Max. Keep in mind, we've got 3 refresh versions of the Xbox consoles coming later this year, all while Microsoft seems hell-bent on making their own console completely unnecessary. So, my dear friend, if you've ever thought you were too dumb to work in the games industry, just look at EA and Microsoft and feel better about yourself. But enough with the impenetrable machinations of the giants. What was announced or revealed this week for us lowly gamers? Well, Coffee Stain announced the 1.0 release of Satisfactory this week, marking the end to the game's 4-year early access phase. Fans of the complex factory building automation game will be happy to hear that working toilets were finally added to the hub. Clearly, this is the biggest feature to be added to date, and we can just move on to the next story, as this addition is all the game needed to be perfect. I mean, it already has an overwhelmingly positive rating on Steam with over 140,000 reviews, so even toilets obviously weren't all that necessary. Toilets and silliness aside, version 1.0 reworks and adds a number of things from smoother research and recipe transition to better game optimization and full support for dedicated servers. All that and more will finally be launching on September 10th of this year, but before you rush to clear your schedule, Factorio would like a moment of your time. That's right, Factorio's Space Age expansion was also revealed to be releasing this fall, and although it comes out a bit later on October 21st, both of these games are just incredibly massive time sinks. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way, these are just big games that can easily consume hours and hours and weeks of your life. In Factorio Space Age, players will be able to take their factories to space, obviously. However, this may technically be a DLC for the base game, but don't let that fool you. Space Age might as well be a full-blown sequel. In development for years at this point, the expansion will allow you to build asteroid defenses, ship cargo between planets, find and use new resources and technologies, and create even more sprawling factories on a handful of new planets with distinct biomes and challenges. If that wasn't enough, Update 2.0, which will be available to all players regardless of if you buy Space Age or not. As with any update called 2.0, it comes with a host of gameplay changes and improvements, far too many to go into here. So if these are your kinds of games, prepare yourself for this fall, because you're most definitely going to lose days of your life to meticulously planning and building your supply chains. But I'll tell you what's not coming out anytime soon, at least on consoles. Cities Skyline 2 has been delayed yet again. The console version was originally supposed to launch alongside the PC version last October, but that was pushed back until this spring and then delayed again until October, a full year after the game's release. And yet here we are again with another delay. On top of that, even the PC version, which has been out for a while, is still sitting at mixed with over 40,000 reviews over on Steam. The general consensus seems to be that the most recent patches are improving the game, but that even on PC, it is still not in the state it needs to be. The word came down over at the Paradox forums, where the post reveals that the console version's stability and performance still aren't ready to be shipped. And since it can take weeks or months for console makers like Microsoft to approve a game's release candidate, Paradox has made the decision to delay once more. Apparently launching a busted and undercooked game on PC is just fine, but they'd rather not sully their reputation any more than it already is with console owners. Or if you enjoy wearing a tinfoil hat on occasion, you may be forgiven for wondering if the PC release was really just a paid beta. Exoprimal fans were unhappy to learn this week that Capcom's third-person action game, which just came out last July, announced that once Season 4 concludes on the 11th, this Friday, no further seasonal content will be added to the game. Instead, Seasons 1 through 4 will cycle through once more. Essentially, the game is going into maintenance mode after just 1 year of updates. That said, players will still be able to access all gameplay modes and will even be matched with bots if no real people are around in the queue. Currently, Exoprimal is sitting at mostly positive with over 2,300 reviews. Despite the relatively positive reception, players rapidly abandoned the game, and even though there was a brief surge of players again when Season 2 released, it seems gamers just weren't interested. Players have pointed to Exoprimal's base price, repetitive game structure, and lack of meaningful content updates as the likely reasons for the game not taking off. On top of that, the game released on Xbox Game Pass, which makes me really question what Capcom's plan actually was for the game as a live service. In any case, it's a shame because it does seem like there was at least some kind of good foundation here to build on with Exoprimal. But after this week, off to the maintenance mode graveyard it goes. 2K is finally moving forward with the next entry into the BioShock series after over 10 years and 4 years after originally announcing the project. Cloud Chamber Studios, the team behind the next BioShock, have said they're recruiting like mad over on their website, which should tell you the current state of the game. On top of that, Ken Levine, the well-known mastermind behind BioShock, is still working on Judas, which is BioShock in all but name. His studio, Ghost Story Games, was born out of the closure of Irrational Games, the team behind BioShock 1 and Infinite. So, we've got Cloud Chamber, an unproven studio working on BioShock 4 because Irrational Games, the team behind 1 and Infinite, was shut down, and Ken Levine, the man in charge of Irrational back in the day, now heading a new studio called Ghost Story Games working on a new game called Judas, which as I said is BioShock in all but name. But that game's been stuck in development hell for at least 6 or 7 years, with some reports, most notably from Jason Schreier back in 2022, saying the game's been in development hell for up to 10 to 11 years. And now, even though BioShock 4, or whatever it's intended to be called, was announced back in 2019 and is just now moving into heavy recruitment in 2024, I mean, I guess I'm glad we're getting a new BioShock, maybe eventually one day, but if either of these games flop, well, consider both the BioShock franchise and Ken Levine's reputation well and truly tarnished, or I guess even more marred than they've become in the past decade. In some related 2K news, the LinkedIn page of a 3D artist and animator at 2K displayed some projects they've been working on, with an upcoming unannounced remake being listed. Naturally, the internet is very curious about this remake, with many guessing at a BioShock 1 remake, but it could be anything from Spec Ops: The Line, Mafia 2, or even Borderlands. In any case, there's a lot of potential here, but until the games are in the wild and Cloud Chamber and Ghost Story Games have proven themselves, there is good cause to be a little concerned and a little wary of these projects until we see what's going on. Hey, here's something fun. So, remember a couple months ago when Bethesda released the next-gen Fallout update that didn't really change much, at least on PC? Well, as any mod enjoyers know, updates break mods, and when you're a game as popular as Fallout 4 in the modding community, that means a lot of broken mods. So much so that the team behind Fallout London had to delay their release to update and fix everything. For those who don't know, Fallout London is a game-sized mod, quote-unquote, that recreates post-apocalyptic London, sending players overseas instead of another tour of the American wasteland. And yeah, it is just as enormous as that makes it sound. Hell, it even has Neil Newbon, the voice actor for Asterion in Baldur's Gate 3, and Anna Dimitrov, I'm sorry I probably butchered that, who voiced Sophia in A Plague Tale Requiem, both doing some voiceover work for the mod. At the moment, the team is waiting for the folks over at GOG to finish quality assurance testing before it can be released. It's so big, it has to have an installer rather than a simple mod page over on Nexus Mods. As long as the game passes GOG's QA testing, it should be basically ready for prime time. So hopefully it won't be too much longer before we can see what the Fallout universe might look like across the pond. Atlus showed off the story trailer for Metaphor ReFantazio this past week. Game director Katsura Hashino has said that Metaphor is the culmination of their RPGs, of course referring to the iconic Shin Megami Tensei and Persona series of games. In Metaphor, players will take control of the game's protagonist at a time when the game's world's king has been assassinated. Your goal will be to travel around essentially campaigning to become the next ruler. During your travels, you'll run into many of the familiar Shin Megami trappings, as well as some evolutions like transforming into living weapons called archetypes, and a real-time combat system mixed in with the traditional turn-based combat. Considering the release of Metaphor ReFantazio lines up with Atlus's 35th anniversary, and given the incredible popularity of Shin Megami Tensei and Persona, I think it's safe to say we're in for something special when it launches later this October 11th on PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S. So, I don't cover streamer drama because why would I? But this week, Hi-Rez Studio announced that they're pulling Dr. Disrespect's content from Rogue Company. The third-person tactical hero shooter came out back in 2020 and has enjoyed a fair bit of success, even implementing a character skin of the Doctor himself. I have no desire to get into the weeds about this one, but in short, it's been revealed over the past week or so that Dr. Disrespect engaged in inappropriate texting conversations with a minor some years back, which is why he was banned from Twitch back in 2020. Now that this is finally coming to light, Guy Beam, the man behind Dr. Disrespect, has seen his castle come crumbling down. Predictably, Guy Beam defenders are acting out and proving once again how idiotic the internet can be. However, there are some legitimate complaints being thrown at Hi-Rez Studios for offering only store credit rather than a full refund for those who bought the skin. Unfortunately, this is yet another reason out there companies should probably avoid incorporating real people and personalities into their media. You never really know who you're partnering with, and if something like this happens, good luck sorting it out. And this one came in a little bit under the radar and at the last minute. Black State was announced this week by developer Motion Blur, and IGN are calling it Metal Gear meets Portal, which is definitely a cool sounding mashup, until you watch the trailer and think, wait, where were the portals? Well, part of the game revolves around the player character entering doors within an unknown territory, and some of those doors will plop you into a dangerous situation. So I guess that's where the Portal part of it comes in, but really that sounds more like something out of Control than it does Portal. In any case, the Metal Gear inspirations in the trailer are pretty clear, especially from Metal Gear Solid 5. The basic premise of the game sees the player character, a former military expert, tasked with rescuing a captive scientist to uncover the truth behind some big cataclysm that has happened. You do this by walking through said doors, dealing with the challenges, and then getting out alive. Not the most original plot, at least from what we have here, but it sounds serviceable enough. I'm actually replaying Metal Gear Solid 5 right now, and this immediately caught my attention. The trailer itself is quite nice looking, if a little bare bones on the specifics. In any case, I'll definitely be keeping an eye on this one's development while hoping for a new MGS-like experience, because please, I really would like one. Speaking of stealth games, Assassin's Creed Shadows has come under fire yet again, this time from a Japanese historical reenactment group whose flag was used in their game's art without permission. The flag in question has since been removed from the game, and Ubisoft Japan has issued a formal apology. However, instances of the flag in the game's art book will remain. This is yet more drama surrounding Shadows, and it hasn't even been released yet. Only time will tell if all this controversy surrounding the game impacts its success in any way when it launches this November 15th for all major platforms excluding the Switch. In some other Ubisoft news, this week XDefiant's Mark Rubin took to Twitter to discuss the game's ongoing problems in a particularly forthright way that I, and it seems many others, appreciated. When responding to Twitter users saying the game was rushed out, Mark replied, "Rushed out? No. What we have is an engine that has only ever been an MMO, and so all of the infrastructure for an FPS has had to be built up from the ground floor. Even Call of Duty started with id Tech, which was a shooter engine. Apex started on a shooter engine. But for us, we're working on developing all new tech in an engine that was designed for something else. That being said, the engine is really great, but it does require a lot of work, and with that work comes a lot of bugs that other engines have already worked out. We're not a shooter that's been out for 20 years. If you like what we are trying to do, stick around and you'll see things improve and new features get added. But if the game isn't for you, that's okay, you can move on." And yeah, he's pretty spot on with those final two thoughts. Say what you want about the games industry and its many problems, but gamers in general really need to learn that not all games are going to be up their alley, and instead of bitching and whining about it on social media, you need to learn to move on. Find another game. Find something that you are interested in. That said, there's no defying XDefiant is an absolute buggy mess, and the devs should rightly be called out on releasing a game with so many bugs. While the most recent patch does increase the game's performance across all platforms, fix the DirectX 12 crashes on PC, and supposedly fix the 0 RP bug for completing matches, there is still a long way to go. Not the least of which is the bug that cancels players' abilities, which is just as bad as it sounds. Still, having quick patches and open communication is definitely going to go a long way to help placate fans until the game is in a more stable state. What else did Ubisoft get up to this past week? Oh yeah, they're still trying to make NFTs a thing despite no one caring in the slightest. Apparently, they've now partnered with Double Jump Tokyo to accelerate global Web3 game adoption. Jesus. As a first initiative, Champion Tactics Grimoire Chronicles will integrate with the Oasis Layer 2 home-verse blockchain developed and operated by Double Jump Tokyo. Huh? Okay. The partnership will enable Ubisoft to issue new Champion Tactics NFTs, which take the form of unique profile pictures over the home-verse chain. Okay, so yeah, there's that. Is there anything else here? Oh, Star Wars Outlaws has gone gold, meaning the game is now feature and content complete. Now all that's left is to prepare for the August 30th release. So far, the internet seems tentatively excited for the release. A lot of early previews were generally positive, but the past 5-ish years have taught us all to be skeptical and cautious of AAA releases. So here's to hoping that this is a good one and not another dud. I'm also hoping the Watch Dogs movie is good because this week, after 10 years, they finally started filming. Not a lot of concrete details, of course, but hey, the project is alive and underway. And while we're on the topic of adaptations, it seems Sony's Horizon Netflix series is stalled and potentially dead in the water. Showrunner Stephen Blackman stands accused of creating a pretty toxic working environment which has apparently caused the show's collapse. Of the two, I was more interested in the Horizon series, but it looks like that one may be done for. Oh well. So we covered the first Descendant last week when it launched to several performance problems and microtransaction complaints, but despite those issues, Nexon's looter shooter peaked at 264,000 players. The dev also announced a post-launch roadmap that includes what's coming in the first 2 seasons, and also announced a hotfix to make group play available to one of the in-game mission types. A roadmap and quick communication are definitely positive signs for the game, but Nexon have come under fire this week for potentially ripping off Destiny 2's icons and even a sniper rifle design. Now, I haven't played Destiny 2, but I do play a little Warframe, and I can definitely tell you that the first Descendant, shall we say, borrows heavily from that game. And that's fine. Everything is an iteration of an iteration anyway, so why not take some good ideas from one game and make it your own? Warframe is a very popular game that's been around for 10 years, so they're clearly doing something right. However, take a look at these similarities between the Destiny 2 and the first Descendant icons that Forbes, of all places, have highlighted. Yeah, it's a little hard to defend these. It's safe to say that this is a little bit more heavy-handed than simply using another game's mechanics. Take a look at the sniper rifle design as well, or at least I think they're sniper rifles. There's definitely a little bit more wiggle room on this design, but given how closely the icons look to each other, it's pretty hard to deny that the artist took some pretty big liberties here. However, as for the icons, the water gets a little muddy because it was revealed that Icon Duck, a website claiming to host free and open source icons and illustrations, looks to be where the icons might have came from, and well, I don't think Icon Duck understands what free and open source actually means. But until some kind of action happens or Nexon speaks up, this will continue to be a suspicious oddity. Nexon have also remained quiet on the game's insane grind and pretty harsh monetization, but that's par for the course. I don't expect Nexon to change their tune or practices, so if you're unhappy with that, I'd suggest moving on because it likely will not change. And if you do decide to move on, here are some cool games that came out this week which might catch your eye. Yes, Angerfoot is finally upon us and will be coming out this Friday, a day after this video goes live. I have been looking forward to this goofy-ass game for a while. The demo over on Steam is a blast. If you're looking for a fast-paced first-person shooter that's got great jump-in and a jump-out vibe, then here you go. In Angerfoot, you're going to be kicking your way through Shit City. Yes, I'm serious. That is what it's called. While you do have guns, ammo is a bit scarcer than you may anticipate, meaning your angry feet will be doing lots of work. As you play, you'll unlock new sneakers and upgrade abilities for even more ass kicking. Seriously, this one is fun as hell. If you're into this kind of thing, check out the demo, you won't be sorry. Oh, and if you're into the more hardstyle side of music, get ready to bop your head while you're kicking heads. Okay, I'm done gushing, really. It's just a really fun game. But let's do a 180 for this next one. Ark of Charon, a mishmash of colony sim and tower defense, where players guide a large sapling-like creature journeying to the world tree. You take control of the tree's caretaker, and it's your job to gather resources, create buildings, and fortify your base during the journey. I'm personally liking the pixel art on this one quite a bit, and if you are interested in this kind of thing, it should be out if you're watching this video. Another one that goes live this week is Kaku Ancient Seal, an open-world action-adventure game from developer Bingo Bell. In Kaku Ancient Seal, you'll play as Kaku as you travel the lands with your flying pig companion, Piggy. In familiar fantasy fashion, the game's world has experienced some kind of calamity, and it's up to Kaku and Piggy to uncover the truth of what happened. Along the way, you'll unlock skills, augment them with runes, explore ruins, and solve puzzles. It's been in early access for a little over a year and currently has a very positive rating with about 505 reviews on Steam. So if this looks up your alley, you can check it out this Friday, July 12th on PC, PS5 with an Xbox Series X and S version coming out sometime down the road. Also coming out this Friday is Concord's beta test. Revealed at last month's Summer Game Fest, Concord is Sony's hero shooter that received a fairly lukewarm reception. Hero shooters are becoming a little oversaturated, and the trailer they revealed just didn't seem to capture many people's attention, at least in a positive way. Obviously, Firewalker Studios, the dev behind Concord, is hoping to change that perception with the upcoming series of beta weekends. And while that remains to be seen, this week they revealed the beta system requirements. I'll throw them up on the screen here. They're not too bad, but they're not too great either. If you're interested in participating in the beta, you'll have to either pre-order the game, which nets you 5 beta codes, or if you've got a friend who's already pre-ordered, maybe you can nab one of their codes. Also, a public beta will be happening about a week later according to Sony, so you can always wait a bit if you need to. The Last Alchemist is called a wholesome third-person alchemy simulation game by developer Vile Monarch. It's looking to be something of a life sim mixed with an alchemy crafting hook that looks like it may be pretty fun to relax with. As with any of these sorts of games, you'll be exploring the countryside, befriending natives, or in this case, little mushroom dudes, solving puzzles, and crafting potions. So if Sony's Concord isn't your thing, you may want to check out The Last Alchemist, also releasing this Friday on Steam. And if neither of those floats your boat, how about a creepy life sim that sees you tending to your farm, caring for your animals, or exploring the nearby creepy woods during the day, while at night, the demons and ghosts leave the woods to come to see who has invaded their turf. Descending the Woods is just such a game, and you'll be able to play it alone or with friends when it launches into early access this Friday. Time Trekker is another early access launch that caught my attention this week, and I know, bullet hell games are starting to become a little oversaturated, but this one's got mechs, and I love me some mechs. Speaking of, I still need to play Armored Core. Man, there are just so many games to play. As for Time Trekker, it's a bullet hell, or I guess a bullet heaven if you prefer that, where you choose between a few different warriors, various weapons and items, and then you customize your mech and destroy everything on the screen. The game will feature a handful of mission types like exploration, defense, and of course, annihilating everyone. Moving on, Once Human, NetEase's big sci-fi survival game, launched this week to some weirdness. Rather than go into detail on whether or not the game is good, only time will tell, let's instead touch on a few of the bits of weirdness. Firstly, the terms of service drama is absolutely nuts. The internet has collectively exploded, talking about perceived overreaches and privacy invasions. Now, I'm not going to get into the weeds on this one, but here's the gist of it. NetEase terms of service mentions things like collecting personal information, such as government-issued IDs, which immediately freaked people out. So much so that NetEase has released a new FAQ detailing what the TOS means. Specifically regarding the ID part, they say this. For example, we would only collect government-issued IDs where the local laws require us to do so, such as when distributing prizes for a specific promotion, when the identity of a user's parent must be verified to obtain consent for their child if required by applicable child protection laws, or when the user wishes to correct their age information, again if such verification is required by law. In any case, the ID information is deleted immediately after we have fulfilled the purpose for collecting the ID information in the first place. Now, you either believe that or you don't. It's 2024, we all know that people make up their minds based on almost no tangible proof or information, so it is what it is. I would, however, encourage you to take a look at some other TOSs from other live service games and compare, because if you find this alarming, but you're playing other live service games, well, rip, I guess? In terms of the game itself, for some reason it launched with no ability to make more than one character, which NetEase basically instantly walked back on when people weren't happy because, yeah, of course they're not going to be happy. Why would you limit it to one character? And while the game itself seems fun enough, at least in the first few hours, there is already some brewing confusion about how seasons work, with the wording on the game's own website making it appear as if season wipes will happen every 6 weeks instead of the more customary 3 months. And when I say customary, I mean customary in other kinds of games. An MMO of the type that Once Human is seemingly trying to be, seasonal wipes are a bit strange in general. In any case, it's still very early going, so we'll see how it all shakes out. Tune in next week if you're interested, because I'll likely take a quick look at how the game is progressing, just to see if it's flopped or if it's booming. In some quick industry news, layoffs continue to plague us as Embracer, a name I am sick of hearing and saying, has shuttered developer Piranha Bytes, the studio behind Elix 1 and 2, Risen, and the original Gothic. So there goes another 20-plus-year-old studio down the drain thanks to corporate idiocy. A silver lining from this is that 2 former Piranha Bytes developers have formed a new indie called Pithead Studio. Obviously, no info on what's coming from them just yet, but at least something survived. Techland, the team behind Dying Light 2, has reported an almost $23 million loss for 2023 this week, the highest in company history. The loss is reported to be due to a lack of new releases and depreciation of dev costs for currently released games. Last year, Tencent paid over $1.5 billion to acquire a majority 67% stake in Techland. And we all know what happens to studios that lose money when megacorporations are involved. Here's to hoping Techland can turn it around. Likewise, TOS, a co-development studio that's been around since 1979 with a name I likely mispronounced, is also reporting a 9-month loss of $2.28 million. Unfortunately for them, it seems the bulk of these losses actually came from clients canceling projects. You see, TOS, or however you say it, is a contractor-style dev house that takes on outsourced work from outside companies. And we've all seen the layoffs, cancellations, and studio closures the past few months. So when your work depends on an outside studio hiring you, it would only make sense that you'd see a decline in profits given the current global situation in the games industry. Which just sucks, man, that these guys aren't responsible for these layoffs and the state of the industry, but they are reaping the consequences. On the complete other end of the spectrum, Pocket Pair, the studio behind Palworld, has partnered with Sony Music and Aniplex to form Palworld Entertainment. The goal of the new entity is to expand Palworld's IP. Doubtlessly, they're hoping to make some cash on things like selling merch and licensing agreements. So get this, Sony, who had originally partnered with Nintendo back in the 90s, only to have Nintendo rug pull them at the last minute, leading directly to the creation of the Sony PlayStation, is now partnering with a company to sell merch and other licensable content from Palworld, the game that is most known for, shall we say, borrowing heavily from Pokemon, one of Nintendo's biggest cash cows. Man, the 2020s continue to get weirder by the day. But enough of all that, let's round things out with a look at the weird and the wonderful. This week, Stein's Altar released a teaser trailer for their fan-made anime adaptation of Elden Ring. And if you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend checking it out on YouTube. I'll leave a link down below. In other FromSoft news, Bloodborne is getting a 736-page full-color anniversary edition guide, which sounds pretty great. Of course, the original 2 volumes of the guide are still out there, but this one looks to be the definitive index of Bloodborne lore. I gotta say, this is like the 3rd or 4th week in a row of just little bits of Bloodborne news here and there, and if I don't get a Bloodborne PC announcement soon, I'm gonna write some very sternly worded letters. Here's some news I couldn't fit anywhere else. Nintendo has stopped accepting Wii U consoles and peripherals for repair because there are no more parts to be had. Unfortunate news for those still playing the old console, but inevitable considering just how unpopular the Wii U ultimately was back in the day. I'm kinda surprised they accepted repairs for this long. While we're talking about Nintendo, have you guys heard of Pokemon Sleep? I guess I may be out of the loop, but if you are too, here's the gist of it. There's a phone app called Pokemon Sleep that tracks your sleep like any other sleep tracker. However, with this one, you gain a sleep score, and the higher your score, the better the Pokemon you catch. There's a Snorlax minigame and a premium pass of some sort because, naturally. So why the hell am I telling you this? Well, it has made over $100 million in revenue in its first year. The vast majority of that comes from Japan, which accounted for $73 million, while the US spent around $15 million on the app. And that is a lot of freaking money for a sleep tracking app, just wild. In another unexpected crossover, Nike and Bandai Namco are partnering to release a pair of Tekken 8 sneakers. The shoes are part of Tekken's 30th anniversary, with Kazuya and Jin being the focus of the 2 designs. Now, as you'd expect, these are not cheap, so if you are unwilling or unable to pay $250 for this collector's item, then you're out of luck. Hey there everyone, that's going to do it for this week's news. Last week we covered Capcom's mini showcase, the First Descendants launch, and more if you want to check that out. I had also talked about deleting the State of Industry segment from these videos. Going forward, I will be including that information, but it'll be sprinkled throughout the content where it makes sense. Anything that I can't fit into other stories will still make it into the video somewhere. I'm also working on some other gaming-related content to get up on the channel soon, like deeper looks at specific upcoming games and some deeper dives into bigger industry topics. So, if there are any games out there that are upcoming that you would like me to take a look at with a more focused, dedicated video, let me know down below. But for now, I will leave it here. Make sure to come hang out with me next Thursday when we do it all again. As always, I hope you're having a great day and stay safe out there. See ya.